turns out that working age people now make up the majority of food stamp recipients in the United States. Now, according to a new analysis done by the University of Kentucky, 1 in 7 Americans now have to rely on the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, otherwise known as SNAP, in order to survive. Now, according to the data, the increase is due in part to some changing demographics, but mainly, this is due to the slow recovery, stagnant wages, and high income inequality, and of course the lack of good paying jobs. Now, according to some economists, and this is something I've been saying a lot, having a job may no longer be enough for self-sufficiency in today's economy. Of course. According to economics professor Timothy Smeeding, quote, a low-wage job supplemented with food stamps is becoming more common for the working poor. Now remember that phrase, working poor. That's what a lot of people don't seem to get it when they think of people on food stamps, that they are working but are still poor, working poor. Put it together. All right. Quote, many of the U.S. jobs now being created are low or minimum wage, part-time, or in areas such as retail or fast food, which means food stamp use will stay high for some time even after unemployment improves. Because what good is having a part-time job that cannot pay the bills? And that's what so many people are going through. When they have to work so hard but don't get enough money, they have to go on food stamps because they can't make up the shortfall with their jobs, sometimes pulling 2 or 3 jobs, and still can't make the rent, and still can't afford food without government assistance. And look, you know, I see the argument around, okay, when I read the comments or when I go through and read other articles, I see the arguments that it's either just lazy people who are poor because they're lazy, which is obviously untrue. Working poor, after all, okay? Many of these people do work, or that it's just so easy to get food stamps, which I think is ridiculous. It is not easy to get food stamps. Unless you've been in the program before, you have no idea how it works. They do a lot of means testing when it comes to applying for SNAP. They have to know everything. They have to go through your bank accounts. They have to know how much money you have, how many assets you have. It's a mean-tested program. And it's not easy to get it. Every time you improve, if you're on that system right now, every step that you take to improve yourselves, say you get a little bit higher paying job or get a second job, they will take back benefits, which can essentially throw you back into poverty. So, I mean, that's sort of the problem. You take one step forward, they bring back one step back. So, I mean, it's very difficult for people to get out of poverty once they're actually in it. The whole point, though, is that right now, working isn't enough to be able to live on your own. Now, remember, low-wage jobs are not all the jobs at McDonald's. Home health care aides actually make up a lot of people on minimum wage. Pew Research had a great study in 2012 that listed the occupational groups that make the minimum wage and how many people worked in those fields. So there's a lot of different fields that are minimum wage fields. And some of these jobs are really, really important. Do you know that an EMT will often start out, depending on where you are, at minimum wage? An EMT. You know how much training it takes to be an EMT? A lot. Automotive service technicians also start out at minimum wage. Child care providers, CNAs, highly trained jobs. All of these people could be on food stamps or could have been at some point in their lives trying to become the CNA or just starting out. And it's because their pay is so low. Remember that when you hear someone say that only fast food workers or people working at Walmart make the minimum wage, remember those. Remember those jobs that do make the minimum wage. They're not all people working at Walmart and McDonald's. These people have an education. In fact, breaking down that stat a little bit more, 28% of all food stamp households are headed by a person with some college education. Now, this is a little bit better, but still bad compared to what it was. 7% have a 4-year degree. That is up from 3%. And that, my friends, is because of the recession that we have still not recovered from. What recovery? Why? Well, it's because there are a lot of the good jobs are gone. And you also have, of course, the declining presence of unions. Very, very few people are unionized now, especially when it comes to the private sector. Low unionization leads to lower wages. Higher economic inequality leads to lower wages. The lack of high-paying jobs in the first place that have been outsourced have basically made it so that a lot of these students, these college students that have graduated, some with 2-year degrees, some with 4-year degrees, to have to go and get a job at McDonald's or another low-wage job. There's another issue to this, of course, and that's the fact that we're subsidizing these low-wage employers with food stamps. Everyone, whether you're conservative, liberal, libertarian, independent, doesn't matter. You should be outraged that these companies can get away with being the most profitable they've ever been simply because they don't pay their workers what they deserve to make. And so these workers have to get on public assistance just to survive. That right there is taking advantage of the taxpayer. You want to talk about welfare queen? That right there is a welfare queen, sucking off the system so you can make an extra buck. That is a welfare queen. And it's not regular people, it's the corporations, the multinationals, the Walmarts and the McDonald's of the world. Those are your welfare queens. So what are the solutions? Where are they? Who has any solutions? All I see are Republicans trying to cut food stamps while simultaneously trying to block every minimum wage increase that comes across their desk. Hey, dumbasses. If you raise the wages, there will actually be less people on government assistance. Yeah, less people will need food stamps. And the very few jobs that actually might be lost by this, by an increase in the minimum wage, will be offset, made up by the majority of people that will actually be off government assistance and will actually have money in their pockets to spend, which will create jobs. It's just sad to see that our, welfare queen corporations and their cronies in Congress continue to ignore this issue and allow people that work hard, to have to rely on government benefits to survive. That's not the way America should be. America should be you work hard, you succeed. But we've gotten away from that.